Welcome to another episode of Truth Talk, where we bring to the forefront the events we face in our nation and our communities. Hello, I'm Melanie Keenan, and I will be your host today. And we welcome Markus back today. Markus, welcome back. He's our co-host.
Thank you, thank you.
Tonight, we'll be continuing our conversation regarding racial unrest in America. We've looked at what has begun the divide recently, and we looked at history and how it's encouraged the perfect conditions to allow the actions from the police to the protesters and even those who are silent to the rioters. The only question that we have now is, what can we do to be part of a solution? To bring the pride back of being part of a nation that really does have justice for all, and to be prideful or proud of serving in our communities in which we live in. But first, I want to welcome our returning guest panelists and also our new guest panelist today. First, we have Bill Coffman returning with us. His viewpoint over the past couple of weeks have been so strong and powerful, equalizing emotion and passion with unprejudiced facts. Welcome, Bill.
Hi, thanks for having me again, Melanie. I really appreciate doing this.
Good to have you. Next, we have Jacqueline Keenan. She's returning with us. She has been very vulnerable in sharing her experiences as she goes into the front lines, as many of those in her generation has done, to be the voice of the hurting and the marginalized. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And we have returning also Brandy Hunt. Hi, Brandy. Brandy has shared her experiences in the workplace with us, and it's helped us to understand that there's much more to do in educating the younger generation, but also in understanding the older generation that really they just were in the segregated movement. So the best way to kind of debunk their racism is by being something they don't expect. Thank you, Brandy, for sharing your experiences.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And we welcome Bonnie. Bonnie Traylor is back. Bonnie and her family has kind of been provoked and thrown into this whole racial conversation. And being vocal really just has caused a little bit of unexpected responses from people she least expected. So thank you, Bonnie, for being brave and courageous.
Thank you for having me.
And for the first time today, we have Mary Lewis. Mary Lewis comes from us from San Luis Obispo, California. She's a graduate of Cal Poly's teaching credential program and has a bachelor's degree in landscape architecture. Mary lives with her husband, 2 adult children, 1 teenager and 1 toddler. So if we're looking at how this affects any generation, she has it all in one household. So that's a very good viewpoint. But Mary is unique in the way that she is a citizen of La Portorel, Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwa, out of Wisconsin. Mary, I don't think I did that name justice, but welcome, Mary.
Thank you for having me. And it's La Coudere Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwa. And it takes a lot of practice to say.
Thank you and welcome. I would like to give our panel the opening for today and just tell everyone listening, how's the last couple of weeks been for you? Has this conversation, this truth talk been something that has opened doors with people in your community and around you? Or is it things calming down, or are things still kind of amped up where you are? So if you can go first, Markus.
Well, I know I was on social media today, and in Greenville, I see that it's still people active, even though it was only one person that was out protesting, and another lady joined in. It was a white lady protesting by herself, and another lady named Miss Jazzy, she ended up joining her to protest along with her. And she did gain some traction because it was another lady asking for her information, like the next time that you do this, let her know because she want to be a part of it. So it's still active, even though it seemed like a lot of things it's like, I guess a lot of things is dying down, it's seemingly, but it's not, because people are still out here advocating and just pushing the movement. So it's still people that's out here active. It is still going on, and which is a good thing, and I'm proud of that.
That's good. And that's in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. Bill, what about you? What's it been like for you?
I've got to tell a lot of people that we're doing this. And so far, every person I've told what was going on, they've been like, wow, that's great. I'm happy somebody's doing this. I was like, we got different maybe viewpoints, but everybody has the same end goal, at least on this panel that I know of. I think the same idea at the end is to make things better. So that was nice. As far as work goes, had a lot of problems, because everybody does right now. There's some definite issues. Had a person this week that, he stole somebody's money and then just flat out said, you can't make me go to jail. You can't do anything because I'm Black, and you can't do it or you'll get fired. He still went to jail. But I mean, just he just stood there had to talk to him for, I don't even know how long, 20 minutes? I don't know, 30. And it was just like, I'm like, there's no reason for this. There's no reason for this. There's no reason for this. But in his mind, there was, and so that stuff does go on right now. I mean, all over the whole world, not just our country. So there's a lot of problems. I don't know. We talked about this last week. I'm glad we're trying to get solutions. I don't know how far we're going to get before Jesus comes back, because there's always going to be problems on this earth. But I still say we need to strive to get it better. And that's what I want to do. And I think that's what this panel wants to do.
Yes, it is. Bonnie, what about you?
It's interesting. Here, I live in a mostly upper middle class suburb, and we had an incident just the other day that went viral on social media, where there was someone whose business had been closed down. They have a bar, and they were upset that there was a fruit cart owner who was doing business, at, he was selling, fruit, and just attacked them, verbally. And so, here there's still definitely a lot of interaction going on, and a lot of people came out to support them the next day. They had over a line of like 400 people to support them. And I think there's still a lot of frustration due to the pandemic. We talked about that, how that's contributing. Also tuned into the city council meeting yesterday, and things are there are still people talking about it to the city council. And I think it's a need. We need to keep talking about it, and we need to keep, bringing these instances up, because there are still people who don't believe that we see racism in our community.
Yeah, well, yes, I will comment after everybody else, but thank you. That's valuable. Mary, why don't you go?
Well, I did join in for one of the first of these shows, so I do have a little bit of background for that. And I would say that although there's still a lot of activity, probably on social media and other places, I do feel like there is a difference in the discussion. I think that it's almost like there's this procession of what people want to talk about, and it has been changing. And we still got a long way to go. We've got a lot of things that we need to work out as a community, as a country, as a people. But I feel like even though it's still a very difficult subject, there's a lot of people who are trying to listen, to varying degrees. And that's definitely been a change in the past 2 or 3 weeks that I've seen.
And Brandy, welcome. What about you? What say you?
I guess for me, same. I can see it, social media. And I didn't know Marcus was here in Greenville with me. We'll have to get together and do something in our area. But for me, it's definitely been enlightening because I share more. So when I'm sharing on social media, I'm not just talking about business anymore, but like you mentioned, my experiences in corporate America and how I can be the bridge and bridge the gap between two opinions. And they're not even really opinions, that's your truth. So I try to be the peaceful person in the middle and say, well, maybe they see it this way and they see it this way. And it's not that either of you wrong, those are your truths, but how can we bridge the gap? So that's what I've been trying to stand back and watch conversations and just be the bridge between those two truths and those two opinions. And I think it's very taxing to talk about it all the time. And so while it seems like it's died down between the pandemic, racism, and just everyday life, people, I believe, that have been emotionally invested are tired. And so it's like, okay, I'm gonna pull back. I still care, but I'm gonna pull back just a little because it's emotionally taxing. But I do still see people speaking up. I do still see people, voicing their opinion and changing their opinion. Once I saw it this way, I want to say Bonnie is her name. Bonnie said she saw it this way, and it was not until this all kind of started coming to fruition that she was like, oh wow. And so I see that too. And I think we are starting the wave, definitely.
All right, Jacqueline, we have to get to a commercial break, but quickly, can you sum yours up in 30 seconds or less?
Sure. This I think has really opened up a lot of good conversation and a lot of positivity for me in my mindset. But sadly, you go out into real life and have those interactions, and it's kind of like, well, nope, we're back. We're still dealing with it. It's still going on.
All right, thank you. Well, we do have to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get right into our segment. Where is God in all this? First commercial.
We are now reaching our second year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in We are now reaching our second year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in real time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. A big appreciation to all our followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. For 2 years we have produced over 25 shows. And joined by passionate collaborators, individuals, and organizations. Social media shows network's 2-year anniversary, and 100 episode celebration, and $100 giveaway. No purchase necessary. Go to socialmediashows.com for more details.
Hi, welcome back to Truth Talk. Before the break, we went around and everyone in the panel got to talk about their experiences over the last couple of weeks. And it was obvious that there's still a conversation that is being had, that the door has been opened and nobody really wants to close it. What they want is to come up with a solution where everybody is heard and everybody is valued. To have a white person only protesting in South Carolina, I used to live there. That's not normal, is it, Marcus and Brandy?
No.
You know, so it's something has shifted with this. There has been a shift of who's caring about the society as a whole. And it's not just Black people raising their voices and protesting and holding up signs. It's white, it's Latino, it's Native American. It's the whole of America that is saying it's time to change. I love that the conversations are still going, but as Bonnie pointed out, COVID has a mix up in this. When people are getting mad because it's not just Black people can't go to jail. When they're releasing 8,000 prisoners from jail, how can you send one person back to jail? Like, there's arguments for that. Cops are afraid to do their job because they don't want to lose their pension. They don't want to lose their job. They don't want to be accused and wind up in a court case of their own. So while it's still open conversation, there's still many things going on that needs to change and change sooner than later for those who are involved in it on a day-to-day. Bill, you wanted to talk about something Brandy had said?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. What Brandy said, I think, is the key. She said that when she's meeting people, and I'm talking individually, not social media really, because that's not personal. You can say whatever you want on social media, it's very impersonal. But when you're talking to your friends, it's very personal. And she said that she's trying to point out another person's point of view. And, you know, it's sensationalized right now with what cops do. But I'm going to tell you, the vast majority of things cops do, the vast majority, not even partially, is not all that dangerous. Like, you know, you're just going there and the neighbor hates the other neighbor because of the lawn. I'm serious. People call the cops on he doesn't mow his lawn. He painted my side of the garage or the fence or whatever. This happens every day. I mean, we get called to everything from the 14-year-old that back talks mom to, you know, people killing each other. So, and everything in between all day long. And so we do those things. I've spent so much time trying to talk neighbors into saying, well, you see their point of view. And I explain the other person's point of view. Then I go back to the other person and say, now, don't you see their point of view? And by the way, often unsuccessful, but not always, sometimes successfully. I've seen people get together, shake hands, say, you know, I didn't even understand what you were saying, but now I do. And so I think that that's the key to fixing a lot of problems, because yelling and screaming and hitting people over the head with a baseball bat, in my opinion, isn't going to make anybody like you. And yet conversation can. And I think Brandy's got the key right there, what she's doing.
Yeah, I do agree. And like I said during the break, while we are going to go nationally, legislation, into the political realm, and we're going to fight the battle there with petitions and city council meetings, we also have to fight the battle in our everyday communications, our one-on-one. Who do I see every day, and how do I react to them? How do they react to me? And when there's a difference, take the time to express it. Take the time to share your side, and maybe they'll understand it and change their viewpoint. But, you know, when we have one viewpoint of any marginalized society that rules over the rest of society, there's still an imbalance. You know, how did we get here? How do we get to a society that is so unbalanced? I think, for me, we can go back to June 25th, 1962, a Supreme Court case of Engel versus Patel. I'm not sure I'm saying those right, but that was the case that established that the First Amendment clause, The government could not force prayer in schools. The government could not make children pray or agree to pray. And also, going back and forth in courts all over the nation was the Pledge of Allegiance. Can we say it? Do we not say it? It was taken out as well because of the sentence, "In God we trust," that it violates church and church and state separation. And then you have where the 10 Commandments are taken out of the courthouses. Literally, God has been taken out of our society. And we can see that, well, to me, it's the pinnacle point of history where offenses have happened inside our country, outside our country, by organizations and the marginalized. But these are two prime examples where the church, where the body of Christ, where we did not do anything. We stood silent. And being silent allows for the decisions to be made for us and for our nation and for our future generations. Where has the voice of the church been? And I'm not talking about the holier than thou part of the church, the ones that say that I'm sanctified and you're not, I'm holy and you're not, I'm better than you, I'm more educated, not those. I'm talking about just the ones with moral and ethical standards, God standards. Where have we been while this community, this nation has been changing the way we do things, the way we have our value system? I truly believe that a society that stopped recognizing God is a society that will be overrun by all ideas, all authorities, and all chaos. What do you guys think? Anybody have a comment about that?
Well, I think that the answer to where is God now is that God is in me. And it is not government's responsibility to do everything for me now. I think that it is my responsibility as a disciple of Jesus Christ to, wherever I am, speak up for what is important to the Lord, for what is important to God. I can go into any situation as a person of peace. I can bring compassion and mercy and also justice into all of the conversations. I need to be open for business everywhere I go. And while the schools may not be able to do some of those things, I want to point out that students' rights have not changed. And a student can have a prayer meeting at school. It has to be student-led. That's the difference. And I know many teachers who keep a Bible on their desk or may have a prayer meeting before or after school. Those with other teachers. And I know a lot of people who have taken on that kind of responsibility. It's shifted for sure. It's not the 50s, it's not mainstream, but it still is our job as Christians to be open for business wherever we are. And I still do see a lot of that. Maybe not on the evening news, but I do hear about that.
All right. Anybody else want to comment? Do you think that taking God out of the public sector has any impact to where we are now? Has it led to where we are now?
Yeah, I have a comment. Oh, someone else?
Jacqueline, why don't you go ahead, and Mary, we'll get you after the break. Jacqueline?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely interesting and is a big turning point for, government to take kind of like a side on saying, no, we're not gonna, have God in everything that we do. But I also kind of see the reasoning for it. as in, I wouldn't want anybody's religion put on me. So I don't know if I could ever expect somebody to want my beliefs put onto them. But at the same time, it's just like Miss Bonnie said, it's really within myself and everybody else and other Christians to say, okay, just because, they don't have prayer in school classes doesn't mean that students can't come together after class or before class and pray on their own.
Very good. Thank you. We have to take another commercial break. When we come back, Mary, you will open up with your comments. Thank you.
We are now reaching our second year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in real time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. A big appreciation to all our followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. Social Media Shows Network's 2-year anniversary, and reaching 100 episodes celebration. As part of our appreciation, we are giving away $100 to a lucky winner. No purchase necessary. Go to socialmediashows.com for more details.
John is an employee at one of the most famous firms in the city of New York, so his job is very hectic, and he realized that it is necessary for him to go and finally take a vacation. But he went on a vacation without planning out the details, and wasn't able to truly enjoy where he went because he had to think about so many things that he didn't plan for. Instead of enjoying his time away from work, he came back with more stress that he was not able to take full advantage of his vacation. But this year, a coworker suggested him to try World Ventures this time to make his vacationing more enjoyable and less stressful. They do not require you to plan anything outside of your transportation, which is also available at discounted rates. Your stay, your transport, and many meals are planned by the club. John liked the idea very much. He tries World Ventures, and his experience with the club was amazing, as he made many friends there with whom he had a great time. John recommends that everyone should try this club, as they are the best in business. See how the VIP-vacation-club.com can give you the right experience without all the hassle. Enjoy the VIP experience that only World Ventures provide.
Welcome back. We left the break with Mary wanting to comment about where is God, and did taking God out of the public section of community affect us and lead us to this kind of, well, society that we have now? Mary?
Well, as an elementary school teacher, I felt that it would definitely be worthwhile to share that, there are schools that school-wide do still say the Pledge of Allegiance. There are teachers who do still say the Pledge of Allegiance in their class. There are prayer clubs after school, led by church leaders. There can be student-led prayer groups and teacher-led prayer groups. So there is definitely still that element, at least that I've seen, and I've taught in this area as well as in Santa Maria. And so it is present, but as far as your main question of removing God from the public sector, I mean, there's definitely been a change within what we do as a community and as a country, and us not taking really the spiritual well-being of others into account. I feel like there's no denying that. I feel like that's really become the normal, is we don't talk about the really in decisions. We don't talk about the religion. We don't talk about the spirituality. We don't talk about how it might make someone feel as, their whole life aspect. And that's definitely missing. And I do agree with Jackie, that it's difficult when, as a Christian, you're okay with, the presence of God and speaking of in that terms. But if maybe that isn't, then that can be difficult. Someone asking you to take that on, but there's definitely a piece that's missing. And I think that would make a big difference if we could somehow incorporate that back into our lives.
Yeah, I love that what you said, not taking spiritual wellness into account for each other. That we really it's like, okay, that's my thing. Like my relationship with God, my religion, my faith, well, that's mine. I'm not gonna impose that in conversation to anybody because we don't want to offend them. And so I think even though we're allowed to do it, and I love how you guys debunked the whole, well, you can't pray in school. I love how you guys debunked that, because a lot of people come to me and say, oh, it's all because, children aren't praying in school and we're not raising them up in the admonition of the Lord. And you guys are saying, wait a minute, we are doing that. It's just not mandated. It's their choice to participate. And I love how you brought that to the forefront. But what happens when one portion of the government or a marginalized society takes a stand for their beliefs, their values, their wants, and they win? Doesn't mean that another group of people lose. And I think so often it does. I'm going to touch on some touchy subjects, but remember, we're going to stay in the format of trying to find a way to be part of a solution that doesn't hurt another group of people, right? While we're doing it. So 9/11, September 1st, September 11th, 2001. At that point in history, we really thought we were safe as a nation. We were, military. We were the eagle. We were the head. We were the ones leading other nations. And we felt safe in America that nobody was going to mess with us. Like, I don't know about you guys, but the military was strong. Military was ready to fight for the country. But then 9/11 happened, and our safety went out the window. The feeling that we were okay as a nation went out the window. And first we prayed, God this, God that. There was prayer vigils everywhere. There was prayer meetings. There was put the scriptures up on platforms outside of places, local places. And then everybody was unified. And then it just went silent again. And then all those who felt unsafe or those in government decided Homeland Security would come. TSA would initiate travel differences, rules, regulations. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I know that's a whole nother show. But what I am saying is this: we got safety for some, but others lost their freedoms, right? We lost a lot of freedoms with those rulings. The terrorist groups that were accounted for this action were not American. The immigration deportation went up 400% from 2001 and 2012 because of the fear of those who weren't born in America. That's a result. Now, do we see that in other things? Yes, we see that in the LGBTQ community, that when they got their rights, they opened doors for same-sex marriages. They gave people a voice to hear about their inner identification, who they knew they were inside. It opened doors for binary and non-binary gender, educational changes. It opened a lot of doors for LGBTQ community, and But then anyone who opposed it, what did it do to them? It kind of slammed the doors on those. If you didn't agree, you were part of a hate community. So just think about that as we go to break. Well, we have 5 more minutes. We're not going to break yet. But think about that for a moment. Talk about that. How do we have the African American society? Are we just going to go and say African Americans need changes for them and them only, regardless of how it affects other communities, whether it be a race or be a profession, or whether it be a part of a city, whether it's the wealthy city versus the lower middle class cities? How are we going to, is there a way to change without doing what these two did? Giving to some, taking away to others.
That's a good question. I don't know if there's a simple answer to that, because when people organize in a free society and they push for their cause, whatever it is, then they usually push as hard as they can. I'm going to ask for $100 and only plan on getting 50. I mean, they're going to push for everything and get some of what they want. They doubt they're going to get everything. But then there's always pushback. And that is an issue that I think is a good issue, though, because in a free society, everybody here gets to have their say. Now, I'm not saying that everything's perfect here. It's not. But in the history of mankind, this freedom thing's only a few hundred years old. History of mankind, the average person never got a say of anything ever in the whole history of mankind. So this is new, and we're still struggling to figure it out. But if you have an ability to get your people that agree with you and push for something, that's a good thing, even if it's something I don't agree with, because that means I can get my people to try and get something done too. And I think that's good, or well, it's not perfect, but it's certainly a lot better than what most of the history of mankind has been, which is there's a few people in leadership and everybody does what they say or you die. And I don't know, that's a bad thing. So it's a rough balance, but I like what we're doing better.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think that it's difficult to say, you know, I'm gonna fight for something that I feel like people are being treated wrong and for the freedom. You know, there's always going to be people who feel like they're losing out on something that they were able to do or say when groups are fighting for equality. You know, I do think it's important still, even though, you know, you realize, okay, there's going to be certain cops who can't do certain things, just like qualified immunity, if that, you know, anyone does anything with that, you know, there's still going to be, you know, those certain cops that are not going to be able to have the same freedoms that they did. But I do think it's still important to, you know, anyone who feels the amount of hatred that, you know, these certain communities feel, I do think it's still very important to push for those drastic changes, because the majority of people who feel the changes is going to be a positive change.
Very, very well said. I think that's very well said. We have 1 more minute. Anybody want to give a quick one, and then we'll come back to break and get more comments? No? All right. Well, when we come back, we'll let you guys finish commenting on this. But I want to just say this. You know, as a nation, I think we've settled into life being silent. We've settled into our own house and picket fence, our own struggles to strive to become someone, to do well in life, to gain the wealth of this land. And we've been silent as communities. We haven't joined the communities the way I think we should. When people say, oh, you know, this group has all of these rights, well, because they band together and they fought for them. And like Bill says, it's a good thing that we're allowed these days in America to fight, to stand up and to be heard within the legal system, and sometimes having to change the legal system to make it a good legal system for the fight. So how do we rise up and be heard? How does the church be heard? How does the African Americans be heard? How does the Latinos be heard? the Native Americans, and the Caucasians, because every one of these groups are being silenced. How? We don't want to offend the person standing next to us. And then we come to a boiling pot like we are now, and everybody's enraged. I think the way to avoid the boiling pot is by keeping the conversation for all sections of society, all people within their communities and outside of their communities going. And when we see an injustice, join them on their fight. When we come back, more guest panel comments and suggestions. Thank you. Bill, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
We are now reaching our second year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in real time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. A big appreciation to all our followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. Social Media Shows Network's 2-year anniversary, and reaching 100 episodes celebration. As part of our appreciation, we are giving away $100 to a lucky winner. No purchase necessary. Go to socialmediashows.com for more details.
Pull up, roll up, fuck up, fast and that's gone, never tired eyes. Got visions, levels, they don't get me quiet, no distractions, please. Hush, I pull up, can't make decisions for me. I'm Pluto, Neptune, pull up, future.
We've reached the age of live streaming on social media shows. We present our show programmings, which demonstrate inspirations to any viewers around the globe,
with over 500,000 reached to over 54 countries.
Our programming are very relatively entertaining and empowering. And now here is the Let's Talk World. Let's Talk World, hosted by young, witty, and fearless leader of social media shows, Maria Pureza. This programming is all about featuring individuals in their field of interest. We showcase everyone's passion.
You can be empowered with Maria and Joe Live TV, a show that will inspires you. Maria and Joe will share real-time stories and deliberate cynical perspective in a positive culture. Join and watch us on socialmediashows.com.
In the Office is a show about words of wisdom that relates to everyday circumstances in life. Watch life coach Joseph Skoda every Wednesday 11 a.m. on Social Media Shows.
Fab Life is about the fashion, celebrities, movies, social events, arts and culture, and so much more. Hosted by JC Crisologo every Monday 7 p.m. on socialmediashows.com.
Shut up and sit down.
Jeezy and Frenemies. Jeezy and His Frenemies is an impromptu comedy skit with a hilarious story of a billionaire designer with other billionaire friends. Socialmediashows.com with evolving characters and actors.
Honey Bees, Women Empowerment Talk Show, hosted by powerful women. As women in our society, we have a voice. Let's talk anything that involves women.
Compassionate and beautiful. You're in our hearts to stay.
Vegas Live, with Ninon DeVere DeRosa. An award-winning talk show host based in the center of Las Vegas. Every Wednesday 1 p.m. on Social Media Shows.
Featuring artists in and outside Las Vegas area.
The Good News is a weekly program every Tuesday to inspires you with the scriptures and Word of God, to uplift you and find a better version of yourself. By Dolores Olson and JC Crisologo.
Social Media Shows is looking for independent assigned artists to show off to the world for a brand new show. So if you have a video ready to show, email us right now at darkmusictelevision@gmail.com.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe on our YouTube channel, Social Media Shows.
Taking action in a peaceful moment. Why does it take a boiling pot to get a reaction rather than justice by action? So instead of it needing a murder to happen, to raise people up to protest and to rally together to make change, why can't we see something unjust in our society and take action in a peaceful way? I think it's because people think, what's the use? This is the way it is. It's not going to change. What do you think, panel?
I'll go. So I think there's a huge difference between someone pinching me and someone shooting me. And even if you pinch me for a long time, it eventually goes numb. But so to the question of why does it need I think we may have spoke up and it just wasn't loud enough. And it's like, okay, well, you know what, you still pinching me, but at this point I'm numb to it. I'm not going to say anything. Well, that same person who was pinching me has now pulled out a gun and actually inflicted a wound inside of me that I felt from the inside, which is what caused the uproar. I think this caused us to dig deep inside. It was no longer, oh, that's happening in Tennessee. I'm in South Carolina. Oh, that's happening down the street. No, it's actually happening where I am. And now I'm actually more impacted than just seeing it across the sea somewhere. This kind of stuff actually never, it was like, oh, it's over there, not over here. Now it's like outside of my door. It's at Starbucks. It's at places that I go now. It's no longer happening to someone else. It's now at my front door. So I have to address it or else it's going to become me.
Okay, that's a good point. It's more real. This has become, it's at home now. Anyone else have a thought about that?
Yeah, I think like when things like that happen, it's because enough people don't speak up. I feel like if you don't say anything or you don't do anything, those that are in power will continue to do what they do, or those that are not affected by the abuse of racism or whatever it may be, if they're not affected, they feel like, you know what I'm saying, what's the use of even approaching it or even speaking on or doing anything about something that don't affect them personally?
You know, I agree with that. And I think that it's surprising to me how many people are not hiding behind, you know, I have a reputable job. I have a reputation. I can't get involved in these things. People don't care about that right now. And I don't know if it's because of the COVID and the isolation and we're not working in those jobs. We're not seeing those people every day, that people feel free to say, this is wrong, or this, I never knew this. And I want to take part in what's going to happen to make justice happen in America. But I think that it's a good change. You know, why do we need to do it? Because history tells us that if we deny history or try to forget it, it's going to repeat itself. It just will. Erasing the parts of history that we don't agree with, and we see that going on here in America today, by wanting to take down statues, by wanting to erase history, by changing history. I can tell you, when I was teaching my children homeschool, there were some really great Black people who came up with what do you call it when you invented things. These days, I have two little boys who have told me that the people that were Black are now white in their history books. Why are they changing the race of people that have invented things in America? And then you have people tearing down the white statues. It's going on both sides. Why are we changing history? We have to know it so we can see it, so we can experience it, teach it, and learn from it. Because at the end of it, society needs to be a place where the authority works for everyone. It needs to be a place where the changes benefit the whole of society and not just the social status of society. Any comments on that before we go on to the problems we want to change?
Yeah, I have a comment on it. I definitely agree that there's something wrong with, I guess what we would call whitewashing right now is, changing somebody's skin tone to come off as a Caucasian person. We've seen it with, I believe, a firefighter was completely turned, her skin tone was completely changed to a lighter skin tone when they were honoring her in a poster. So it's definitely, they're trying to erase our history, but they're also trying to erase the current things that us as African Americans have been able to accomplish. But with, the statues and everything, is somebody said something, they said something like, if you are Jewish, right, and they have a statue of Hitler, wouldn't you want that to be taken down? Wouldn't you want that reminder to not be around you every single day when you walk out of your house? Which is the same for the statue. How can we go outside into the public areas and see statues in the honoring of slave owners and slave traders? So it's more so either, you don't lie about it and educate people with the statues, or just don't have them up. It's kind of where people are going for, but not really communicating that as well as they should.
Okay. I want to ask Mary this. Mary, coming from the Native American community, how do you see this play out?
Oh, we could talk for hours about that. But I know we don't have that much time left. Overall, I really just, I want to agree with Brandy and Marcus, and then of course Jackie too. But it's there's just, I know that my experience as a Native American was just, I didn't speak up, but there was also this lack of wanting to even listen. Like they didn't even want to hear it. They didn't want to hear what my life as a Native American living in a white community is like. It's like the first thought they have is, oh no, that's not true. Like, oh no, that didn't happen. And it's like, yeah, it did. Like, this is my life and it's different because I look different and I'm not Black. I'm not white. And so it's a different experience. And, this is still very much about the Black experience, but just my own, there was no space for it. Nobody wanted to hear it. And as far as rewriting history and erasing history, that's a huge one, because it's like, as a Native American, they're like, oh, there's still Native Americans? Like, you guys are still alive? And it's like, wow, thanks. So yeah, that's huge. And, there's a huge piece of Black history missing, to say the least. And I mean, like an entire world of the Black experience that is not spoken to. And the same thing for the Native American experience. It's nobody wants to hear it because they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed what happened. And that's fine, honestly. Like, you should be embarrassed. If you feel embarrassed and ashamed, then you're still human, and that's okay. It's just a matter of giving that voice a chance to be heard. And I feel like that's definitely happening now more than ever. And history does need to be more inclusive. It really does need to be rewritten to a certain extent, because there's so much that's not represented. There's so much that's not spoken about. And we end up with people who don't know that this stuff still happens, that, you know, that it is different. And they just don't know, you know, there's not any, I think there's not very much malicious intent behind it. They just don't know. And there's no excuse for that.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. It's not that some people just want to outright deny it, but some just aren't aware of it. I know Native Americans, for so many, especially the younger generation, it's something you saw in history, it's something you saw in movies, but they were all killed, and they don't exist anymore, because the Native American, and I read this in some of your history as I was researching, that they were told to put on the white culture. And so they just merged into the white community and kind of just disemboweled their heritage. And so I think that's a problem when a community says, hey, we don't acknowledge Native Americans, you just take on the whites so that you can work and you can have a house and you can live, and we'll take care of you if you do that. So I think it's important to bring you to the table as well. And I thank you for that conversation. You know, it's time to take a break, but we only have 2 more minutes when we come back. So we barely touched the arguments for change today. It was a great conversation. I love when we run out of time, because that means we had good conversation. I do want to take a commercial break and come back though. So let's take a commercial break. Is it okay if we run a little bit over, panelists? Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a commercial break. We'll be back.
We are now reaching our 2nd year anniversary on our inspirational, educational, and entertainment programmings. As part of our journey, we are so grateful to announce that our programs are now available to watch live in real time on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Periscope. A big appreciation to all our followers, viewers, supporters, and to those who are cheering for our success. Thank you very much for your patronage. For 2 years we have produced over 25 shows. And joined by passionate collaborators, individuals, and organizations. Social Media Shows Network's 2-year anniversary, and 100 episode celebration, and $100 giveaway. No purchase necessary. Go to social media.
Hi, welcome back to the final segment of Truth Talk. We are going a little over today because there's just a moment when you just know the conversation has to continue. So we're going to take another 10 minutes and we're going to talk about what are the things that we know we need to see changed. What are some of the arguments for change? Everyone talks about systemic abuse in America, how this has been the way history has happened. You pillage, you kill, you build, but we're not building anymore, America. We're already here. We've already been founded, so we don't need to do that anymore. Complicit racism and racial profiling. You know, it's time to stop looking at what kind of car people drive and trying to figure out what kind of person they are, what kind of house people live in, and assume that they're got it all or have nothing. It's time to stop profiling people, period. But the one thing that is very alarming is this thing called no-knock warrants. And I want to take the last segment to talk with the panel about that. No-knock warrants is this. I'm going to read from the actual description. Is a warrant issued by a judge that allows law enforcement to enter a property without immediate prior notification of the residents. They don't have to knock or ring a doorbell. In most cases, they will identify themselves right as they enter the door. Now, what I also know is these no-knock warrants typically happen in the darkest hours of the night when people are asleep. Now, I will tell you this, and we'll get into specific case. If you come into my house at 2 a.m. and you come in with a bang on my door, you're gonna get shot. I'm not asking who it is. You're coming into my house at 2 a.m. You're gonna get shot. Plain and simple. Because that is how we have taught, protect your home. We have a right to bear arms in America. We have a right to protect our home. How can they tell us, well, just in case it's the police, don't do anything until you see who they are? Well, what if it's not the police? 9 out of 10 times it's not the police. Probably 99.9 times it's not the police. I'm not going to wait to see who it is. Now, the argument for this is that they only go to drug houses or they go to people who are suspect. But let me tell you this. It says here from npr.org that suspected drug transactions from the drug cartel or gangs, they use addresses that are not known to drugs so they don't get caught. So the delivery will be at an address. The package will be delivered to my home and I have nothing to do with them. But because the package was at my house, they're going to do a no-knock warrant to me. So the drug cartel, the drug community, for lack of a better word, has caught on to this no-knock warrant and said, you know what, just do it at somebody else's house. So no-knock warrants have to be banned. Breonna Taylor law. Breonna Taylor was a 26-year-old African-American emergency medical technician. She was shot and killed during a no-knock warrant. The law says that in Louisville, Kentucky, that police have to wear body cameras when serving warrants and that they cannot do no-knock warrants. The thing is this, in this case, and I think this is cute because it goes to why we have to change this. This judge, a Detective Joshua James, wrote 5 affidavits for a judge to sign for no-knock warrants. 5 of them, okay? You wanna know how long it took this judge to sign all 5 no-knock warrants? 12 minutes. 12 minutes. You tell me he reviewed this case. In 12 minutes, he signed 5 no-knock warrants. Well, let me tell you, it says here, Breonna Taylor, the U.S. Postal Inspector of Louisville, said this to WDRB News. He said, I told them that there was no suspicious male going to the Taylor's home. There was no suspicious male going to the Taylor's home. The no-knock warrant was based on suspicious drug mail being delivered to her home. If they had done their research, she would be alive. So that's one of the causes that we have to change, is this kind of stuff going on, because it can. It can. Comments?
I agree to that, because it also can be discriminatory when it comes to niggas no knock warrants, because they can pick and choose who they do these type of warrants on. And I think it's bigger than what they saying it is. No knock warrant. I think it's a bigger picture than what we know, because it's so much that can go on with that. Like, for instance, if they expect there to be drug activity at one home in a urban neighborhood, and then again there's another drug activity going on in a suburban area, but they think in the suburban area may be meth, but the urban area is drug related, like whatever, cocaine, marijuana, whatever it may be. They would go to that urban area for the simple fact that there's more collateral there. If you go to a meth house, it's not really gonna be anything but the products to make the meth. You won't have a lot of things that they can take as collateral, things that they can bring money into the agency. But if you go to a drug house, you liable to find tons of money, TVs, anything that can bring any type of income to the agency.
I never thought about that. That's a good point. I never thought about the fact that it makes more sense because they can get more product and more money to be brought in. That's a good point. Anyone else before we close out the show?
I did a lot of research on the Breonna Taylor case, and it was absolutely heartbreaking to me because I have a 26-year-old daughter, and like you, if someone came into my home in the middle of the night without announcing who they were, we would defend ourselves. And I think in that case also it was another issue, as you touched on, the officers should have been wearing body cameras and they weren't. It was an apartment and over 20 rounds were fired. 3 of those rounds went into the next door neighbor's apartment, and there was a 5-year-old child in that apartment. So it's not just bad for the person that's being served the warrant, it's bad for the community. It's unconscionable. And then what was also awful about that case is that they arrested Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, who had, he's the one who fired back. They arrested him, and he was in jail for some time before they finally even fired. If I'm not mistaken, still none of the police officers have been arrested, and only one of them was fired. But it took a long, long time for that firing to happen. And that one officer was also on the committee who reviews cases like this. So the first thing they had to do was remove him from that committee. He's on the committee that reviews use of force. And so, yeah, it's got to stop. That it's just not safe. It's not right for people to come in using, arms in a home on a drug charge. You shouldn't get the death penalty for a drug charge. Even, I mean, that's assuming somebody's guilty. And obviously a lot of innocent people are in harm's way.
And the point of bringing this up is not to go against anything other than the injustice of some of the tactics that are used against American citizens. Mm-hmm. Tactics that are not warranted, that are not vetted well enough by even the judges signing the warrants. They're just not okay.
I don't even
so,
understand how that's constitutional. What happened to the Fourth Amendment?
And next week,
we're supposed to be protected from that.
And next week, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about being part of the solution. We're going to talk about the solutions that are already happening. There is a lot of headway going around the nation. We have the Reform, Shift, and Build Act in Boston. We have the HR 7120. We have some defunding and reforming police budgets and taking some of the police budget and getting it into community organizations. Not taking away everything of the police, but keeping the police intact and taking some of the miscellaneously erroneous money and putting it into good use. We have education of the children through open conversations happening. So next week when we come back, we will talk solely about solutions. We will talk about what's happened since the death of Mr. Floyd, the murder of Mr. Floyd, and we're going to talk about what we can do in the future and ongoing. Join us again for another episode of Truth Talk next week. Thank you so much, everyone.